Hey guys, in my today's Vanilla City build update, you see me build my probably last international airport in City Skylines 1. I used a lot of the tricks I learned over the past couple of years in this build, and especially the new airport aprons are game changing for building realistic airports. So let's fly in and see where we start. At first we are flattening the whole area with the airport district tool. Although it's quite cool that it also automatically removes all the trees, it can be quite annoying later in the build when you have to reconfigure some district borders. But nonetheless, it's a fast and easy technique to flatten the terrain of a larger area relatively quickly. I usually like to start with the terminal layout and then build the airport around it. Nevertheless, you have to be able to estimate relatively well how big the airport is going to be in the end. So another tip from me is to build the airport far away from your existing city, in case you have estimated the needed space a little bit too small. But now to the layout itself. You have 3 guesses which airport in real life was the inspiration for this one. I bet you will never find out. Let me know in the comments though, I'm just kidding. Shouldn't be that hard if you look at the city's name in the bottom. I used the modern terminals from the Airports DLC to create a U shape. Then I also placed this large thingy to give the airport a more interesting shape. The rest are just concourses stretching all the way back. I also placed down an ultra modern satellite terminal to the left. This one could be added fairly new in the past. I also mixed in some of the older terminal assets. You will find this every time at every major international airport in the Western world at least. That the airport was expanded as the time progressed and the passenger numbers have increased. Maybe not in China or so though, where they build a massive airport with a capacity for 100 million people a year from scratch, lol. So now we finished the terminal, we can concentrate on the runway and taxiway layout connecting the plane stands. I use dirt paths to create a straight line where I can place all the airport aprons at first. It's one of my new methods to build realistic taxiway layouts. Then you can easily place down the functional runways and taxiways on top. Taxiway building in the vanilla game is super annoying. You have to build exactly to the guidelines of the pre-existing taxiways to connect them, otherwise it's literally impossible. I wanted to have road anarchy so bad here, but then I also had no reason to place all the aprons first, so I will go through the pain with all my fellas on consoles. Then I also placed park life paths on the side of the taxiways to represent shoulders. In my opinion that looks super cool and rounds off the whole thing nicely, literally. Really close up you will see all the lanterns and benches, yes. But from far away it looks simply amazing, or what do you say? Hello from the other side. Here it's actually all the same again, but this time with 2 runways instead of 1, like at my real life inspiration airport itself. Here I have plenty of space left. But at the opposite side, the hill from the last episode was already really close. So I decided to only place 1 runway there. 4 runways would have been a total overkill anyway. I know the city right now at least doesn't need that huge of an airport. But we will still get a lot of urban sprawl and a fairly huge downtown soon. When my PC can handle it, of course. If you want to see what else you can do with the airport aprons, I made a whole video with tips and tricks about them. Link will be in the description. I'm actually quite happy how the airport worked perfectly fine. I fixed all wrong directions off camera, but you can still see planes starting to use the airport already, even though it's not even connected with roads to the city. But oftentimes if you forget to change the direction of one little segment, the whole airport can't function properly or so. So it's better to double check it every now and then. Here I started to fill in every remaining gap of grass with the airport aprons. The big ones are actually quite practical when building large international airports. But I wish there were like 3 different sizes with one 4x4 or even a 2x2 small sized one to be more precise here and there. But after all I think they were designed to do exactly that, filling airports with concrete. I honestly can't imagine the game anymore without them. I also placed down some decals on top of them to give the apron a bit more texture now and then. The decals from plazas and promenades are perfect for that. It's really time consuming though. I maybe spent half an hour to fill the space around the plane stands all around the airport with decals with both colors, a darker and a lighter gray. I wish we could get some more texture brushes with a wider selection of colors in CS2. That would be totally epic. Here I also built 4 cargo plane stands. I don't know what's going on, but trucks are spawning 24/7 there. It's like there is no other cargo transportation method anymore in the city. What about my trains? They are also closer to the city and the industry buildings which produce all of the stuff. Oh yeah, and the planes are stuck in front of them. You can't see it right now, but later it's a total mess. I also placed down some warehouses and a unique factory that could look like a warehouse around them. Also, some hangars are always a nice addition here and there. Now we come to the road layout around the airport. I'm always quite overwhelmed when building it. Here I built a little tunnel underneath the runway and placed down airport aprons on top to make it look like a cut and cover tunnel, like you'll find them oftentimes around airports. But to be honest, my first 2 or 3 overall attempts totally sucked. I always forgot the spawning issue beforehand, and the road layout you'll see me build is definitely not ideal to handle huge amounts of truck traffic, especially when they are only using 1 lane. But here I attend the design within the passenger terminals first. I placed down this iconic structure as a centerpiece. In real life, it's the so-called theme building. It's also considered an architectural example of the space age design style. Influenced by Populux architecture, it's an example of the mid-century modern design movement later to become known as Googie. The airport theme building, exterior and interior, was designated as a historical monument in 1993. You can get it with a mid-century modern pack by Revo, and I think nobody ever placed it before. Around it I squeezed in 2 train stations to connect the airport with public transit to the city. Also, what can't be missing are the new parking garages. At airports and in really dense downtowns they are in really good hands, but for everything else they are way too big in my opinion. I will decorate the area here with some paths and trees, but off camera I removed the trees around the parking garages again and used concrete all over there. Airports have no hearts for plants. In the inside it's maybe okay, but on every airport video I've ever made I placed down these little bushes all around the grassy areas, and every time I got comments, you can't place the vegetation there, it will attract birds and they will sucked in by the turbines and everyone will die. Yeah, it's every time the same, but I will probably place down some vegetation props anyway. No bushes, okay? Now we are at the part which definitely didn't make any fun at all while building it. As I mentioned before, the road layout isn't ideal in that state of the build. I fixed it now finally, but did most of the work off camera. But I would say it stayed like 90% maybe the same. I just changed some one-way street directions at some of the roads. But here I tried to connect the 2 road layers of the passenger terminals of the airport at first. Both of them should be reachable from the highway and from the avenue as well. Yeah, easier said than done, especially in that tight space. And then there's also this train line, which occupied 1 layer for itself, so it ended up with 3 layers above each other. And that wasn't particularly easy, especially not with the vanilla tools. With Move It, Road Anarchy and Network Multitool, the whole build would be done 3 times faster. But one thing with these mods is you tend a little bit to perfectionism, me at least. When you can theoretically build the perfect roads, you want to build the perfect roads. With just vanilla tools you think, yeah okay, it won't get any better than this, I'm fine with it. I also had to connect the airport highway access somehow to the already existing highway. For that I had to build a large custom interchange. It ended up in a stack hybrid with the highway continuing to the opposite side. There it will eventually nestle on the bank of the river, but we will see. I should rather put it underground and build a nice park along the waterfront instead. Oh man, now I'm hyped to build something like that. But I have to finish the airport at first and detail a little bit around it. So you'll see me most likely in the next episode building a lot of surface parking lots. Yay! Building interchanges like that is a real pain. It's a lot of terraforming and building and rebuilding roads over and over again, in the right height and in the right angle. And that's definitely not possible to see in a fixed camera angle, so I always fine-tuned it a bit in between the cuts. I hope you don't mind. In the end, with some concrete and trees around it, it looks quite cool. I haven't thought that in the middle of the build though. Lastly, I had to connect the train tracks at the airport to the already existing train network, which will be in a huge elevated and embanked curve right next to the interchange. Someone commented that a train tunnel underneath the observatorium would cause too much vibrations. and would therefore harm the fine instruments inside it. Can someone fact check that? If that's really true, I have to redesign this area a little bit. 10 hours and 10-minute time-lapse. We are done, my friends. Here you can see the build in the context of the city. The angle isn't the best, but you can never know how your build will exactly turn out before you start building. As you may notice, I test a bit around with new video formats, because I want to find my exact new style till CS2 release. So give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, but at the end of the day I will see it most likely if the algorithm pushes the video out to more of you or not. If you really like this build and want to have access to the save game, which will be now released, you could check out my Patreon page. Other than that, have a nice day, thanks to all the people who already support me, and bye bye.